Hey everybody, Editing Morgan here. So I just wanted to put in this little kind of voice note about this book in general, that while it was really groundbreaking in the 70s and really challenged gender norms, I do recognize that it does sort of leave out the non-binary discussion or gender fluid discussion. But, this was in the 70s, and I think that for my generation, it was really groundbreaking and really important to sort of challenge the gender norms as we understood them at that time. So I just wanted to kind of, insert in that caveat that, of course, we have a broader understanding about gender and gender roles and gender fluidity today. But this was a really important book for a lot of us back in the day, and unfortunately still kind of needs to be said today for some of these excerpts, which is really very sad. But I just wanted to acknowledge all of those things before we got into the book. Thank you so much. Appreciate you listening. Free to Be, You and Me by Marlo Thomas and the Miss Foundation for Women. Ladies First by Shel Silverstein, adapted by Mary Rogers. Did you hear the one about the little girl who was a tender, sweet young thing? Well, that's the way she thought of herself. And this tender, sweet young thing spent a great deal of time just looking in the mirror saying, I am a real little lady. Anybody could tell that. I wear lovely starched cotton dresses with matching ribbons and my lovely curly locks. I wear clean white socks and shiny black patent leather shoes. And I always put just a dab of perfume behind each ear. When she was at the end of the lunch line at school, all she had to say was, ladies first, and she'd get right up to the front of the line. Well, her life went on like that for quite a while, and she wound up having a pretty good time. Admiring herself in mirrors, always getting to be the first in line, and stuff like that. And then one day she went exploring with a whole group of other people through the wilds of a deep and beastly jungle. As she went along through the tangled trails and prickly vines, she would say things like, I have got to be careful of my lovely dress and my nice white socks and my shiny, shiny shoes and my curly, curly locks. So would someone please clear the way for me? And they did. Or sometimes she'd say, what do you mean there aren't enough mangoes to go around and I'll have to share my mango because I was the last one across that icky river full of crocodiles and snakes? No matter how last I am, it's still ladies first. So hand over a whole mango, please. And they did. Well then, guess what happened? Out of nowhere, the exploring party was seized, grabbed up by a bunch of hungry tigers, and these tigers tied all the people up and dragged them back to their tiger lair, where they sniffed around trying to decide who would make the best dinner. How about this one, said the tiger chief. Nah, too bony, said the others. What about this one? It's got a lot of meat on it. Meaty but muscly. Oh, for heaven's sake, don't take all night, said the chief tiger. I never saw such a pack of picky eaters. How about this one? It looks tender, smells nice. In fact, I never saw anything quite like it before. I wonder what it is. Sniff, sniff. I am a tender, sweet young thing, she said. Oh, far out, said the tiger chief. I'm also a little lady. You should know that by my lovely clothes and my lovely smell. And if it's all the same to you, tiger sweetie, I wish you'd stop licking me and untie me this instant. My dress is getting mussed. Well, yes. Well, as a matter of fact, we were all just trying to decide who to untie first. Ladies first, she said. And so she was. And mighty tasty, too. What Are Little Boys Made Of? By Elaine Laron. What are little boys made of? Love and care and skin and hair. That's what little boys are made of. What are little girls made of? Care and love and see above. That's what little girls are made of. Don't Dress Your Cat in an Apron by Dan Greenberg. Don't dress your cat in an apron just 'cause he's learning to bake. Don't put your horse in a nightgown just 'cause he can't stay awake. Don't dress your snake in a muumuu just 'cause he's off on a cruise. Don't dress your whale in galoshes if she really prefers overshoes. Person should wear what he wants to wear. and not just what other folks say. A person should do what she likes to do. A person's a person that way. Housework by Sheldon Harnick. You know, there are times when we happen to be just sitting there quietly watching TV, when the program we're watching will stop for a while, and suddenly someone appears with a smile and starts to show us how terribly urgent it is to buy some brand of detergent or soap or cleanser or cleaner or powder or paste or wax or bleach to help with the housework. Now, most of the time, it's a lady we see who's doing the housework on TV. She's cheerfully scouring a skillet or two, or she's polishing pots till they gleam like new, or she's scrubbing the tub, or she's mopping the floors, or she's wiping the stains from the walls and the doors, or she's washing the windows, the dishes, the clothes, or waxing the furniture till it just glows, or cleaning the fridge, or the stove, or the sink with a light-hearted smile and a friendly wink. And she's doing her best to make us think that her soap or detergent or cleanser or cleaner or powder or paste or wax or bleach is the best kind of soap or detergent or cleanser or cleaner or powder or paste or wax or bleach that there is in the whole wide world. And maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. And maybe it does what they say it will do. But I'll tell you one thing I know is true. The lady we see when we're watching TV, the lady who smiles as she scours or scrubs or rubs or washes or wipes or mops or dusts or cleans or whatever she does on our TV screens, that lady is smiling because she's an actress and she's earning money for learning those speeches that mention those wonderful soaps and detergents and cleansers and cleaners and powders and pastes and waxes and bleaches. So the very next time you happen to be just sitting there quietly watching TV, and you see some nice lady who smiles as she scours or scrubs or rubs or washes or wipes or mops or dusts or cleans, remember, nobody smiles doing housework but those ladies you see on TV. Because even if the soap or detergent or cleanser or cleaner or powder or paste or wax or bleach that you use is the very best one, housework is just no fun. Children, when you have a house of your own, make sure, when there's housework to do, that you don't have to do it alone. Little boys, little girls, when you're big husbands and wives, if you want all the days of your lives to seem sunny as summer weather, make sure when there's housework to do, that you do it together. The Pain and the Great One by Judy Blume. My brother's a pain. He won't get out of bed in the morning. My mother has to carry him into the kitchen. He opens his eyes when he smells his sugar pops. He should get dressed himself. He's 6. He's in the 1st grade, but he's so pokey, Daddy has to help him, or he'd never be ready in time and he'd miss the bus. He cries if I leave without him. Then Mom gets mad and yells at me, which is another reason why my brother's a pain. He's got to be first to show Mom his schoolwork. She says ooh and ah all over his pictures, which aren't great at all, but just ordinary 1st grade stuff. At dinner, he picks at his food. He's not supposed to get dessert if he doesn't eat his meat, but he always gets it anyway. When he takes a bath, my brother, the pain, powders the whole bathroom, and he never gets his face clean. Daddy says he's learning to take care of himself. I say he's a slob. The Great One. My sister thinks she's so great just because she's older, which makes Daddy and Mom think she's really smart, but I know the truth. My sister's a jerk. She thinks she's great just because she can play the piano, and you can tell the songs are real ones, but I like my songs better, even if nobody ever heard them before. My sister thinks she's so great just because she can work the electric can opener, which means she gets to feed the cat, which means the cat likes her better than me, just because she feeds her. My sister thinks she's so great just because Aunt Diana lets her watch the baby and tells her how much the baby likes her. All the time the baby is sleeping in my dresser drawer, which my mother has fixed up like a bed for when the baby comes to visit, and I'm not supposed to touch him, even if he's in my drawer, and gets changed on my bed. My brother, the pain, is 2 years younger than me, so how come he gets to stay up as late as I do? Which isn't really late enough for someone in the 3rd grade anyway. I asked Mom and Daddy about that. They said, you're right, you are older, you should stay up later. So they tucked the pain into bed. I couldn't wait for the fun to begin. I waited and waited and waited. but Daddy and Mom just sat there reading books. Finally, I shouted, "I'm going to bed." "We thought you wanted to stay up later," they said. I did, but without the pain, there's nothing to do. "Remember that tomorrow," my mother said, and she smiled. My sister thinks she's so great just because she can remember phone numbers, and when she dials, she never gets the wrong person. And when she has friends over, they build whole cities out of blocks. I like to be the garbage man. I zoom my trucks all around, so what if I knock down some of the buildings? It's not fair that she always gets to use the blocks, I told my mother and father. They said, "You're right. Today you can use the blocks all by yourself." "I'm going to build a whole city without you," I told the great one. "Go ahead," she said. "Go build a whole state without me. See if I care." So I did. I built a whole country all by myself. Only it's not the funnest thing to play blocks alone, because when I zoomed my trucks and knocked down buildings, nobody cared but me. "Remember that tomorrow," Mom said, when I told her I was through playing with blocks. But the next day, my brother was a pain again. When I got a phone call, he danced all around me, singing stupid songs at the top of his lungs. Why does he have to act like that anyway? And why does he always want to be a garbage man when I build a city out of blocks? Who needs him knocking down buildings with his dumb old trucks? And I'd really like to know why the cat sleeps on the Payne's bed instead of mine, especially since I am the one who feeds her. That is the meanest thing of all. I don't understand how my mother can say the Payne is lovable. She's always kissing him and hugging him and doing disgusting things like that. And my father says the Payne is just what they always wanted. Yuck. I think they love him better than me. Next day, we went swimming. I can't stand my sister when we go swimming. She thinks she's so great just because she can swim and dive, and isn't afraid to put her face in the water. I'm scared to put mine in, so she calls me baby, which is why I have to spit water at her and pull her hair and even pinch her sometimes. And I don't think it's fair for Daddy and Mom to yell at me because none of it's my fault, but they yell anyway. Then my mother hugs my sister and messes with her hair and does other disgusting things like that, and my father says the great one is just what they always wanted. Yuck, I think they love her better than me. The Southpaw by Judith Fjorst. Dear Richard, don't invite me to your birthday party because I'm not coming. And give back the Disneyland sweatshirt I said you could wear. If I'm not good enough to play on your team, I'm not good enough to be friends with. Your former friend Janet. P.S. I hope when you go to the dentist he finds 20 cavities. Dear Janet, here is your stupid Disneyland sweatshirt if that's how you're going to be. I want my comic books now, finished or not. No girl has ever played on the Mape Street baseball team, and as long as I'm captain, no girl ever will. Your former friend, Richard. P.S. I hope when you go for your checkup you need a tetanus shot. Dear Richard, I'm changing my goldfish's name from Richard to Stanley. Don't count on my vote for class president next year. Just because I'm a member of the ballet club doesn't mean I'm not a terrific ball player. Your former friend, Janet. P.S. I see you lost your first game 28-0. I'm not saving any more seats for you on the bus. For all I care, you can stand the whole way to school. Why don't you just forget about baseball and learn something nice like knitting? Your former friend, Richard. P.S. Wait till Wednesday. Dear Richard, my father said I could call someone to go for a ride with us and hot fudge sundaes. In case you didn't notice, I didn't call you. Your former friend Janet. P.S. I see you lost your second game, 34-0. Dear Janet, remember when I took the laces out of my blue and white sneakers and gave them to you? I want them back. Your former friend, Richard. P.S. Wait until Friday. Dear Richard, congratulations on your unbroken record. 8 straight losses. Wow, I understand you're the laughingstock of New Jersey. Your former friend Janet. P.S. Why don't you and your team forget about baseball and learn something nice, like knitting maybe? Dear Janet, here's the silver horseback riding trophy that you gave me. I don't think I want to keep it anymore. Your former friend, Richard. P.S. I didn't think you'd be the kind who'd kick a man when he's down. Dear Richard, I wasn't kicking exactly. I was kicking back. Your former friend, Janet. P.S. In case you were wondering, my batting average is .35. Dear Janet, Alfie is having his tonsils out tomorrow. We might be able to let you catch next week. Richard. Dear Richard, I pitch. Janet. Dear Janet, Joel is moving to Kansas, and Danny sprained his wrist. How about a permanent place in the outfield? Richard. Dear Richard, I pitch. Janet. Dear Janet, Ronnie caught the chicken pox, and Leo broke his toe, and Elwood has these stupid violin lessons. I'll give you first base, and that's my final offer. Richard. Dear Richard, Susan Riley plays first base, Marilyn Jackson catches, Ethel Kahn plays center field, and I pitch. It's a package deal. Janet. P.S. I'm sorry about your 12-game losing streak. Dear Janet, please, not Marilyn Jackson. Richard. Dear Richard, nobody ever said that I was unreasonable. How about Lizzie Martindale instead? Janet. Dear Janet, at least could you call your goldfish Richard again? Your friend, Richard. The Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe by Joyce Johnson. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe, and all her grandchildren played there too. She laughed at their jokes when they were funny, and kept a green jar of bubblegum money. She rode with them on the carousel, and played Monopoly very well. She taught them to paint and how to bake bread. She read them riddles and tucked them in bed. She taught them to sing and how to climb trees. She patched their jeans and bandaged their knees. She remembered the way she'd felt as a child, the dreams she'd had of lands that were wild, of mountains to climb, of villains to fight, of plays and poems she'd wanted to write. She remembered all she'd wanted to do before she grew up and lived in a shoe. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe and lived in the dreams she'd had once too. She told those she loved, children, be bold. Then you'll grow up, but never grow old. My Dog is a Plumber by Dan Greenberg. My dog is a plumber, he must be a boy. Although I must tell you his favorite toy is a little play stove with pans and with pots, which he really must like, 'cause he plays with it lots. So perhaps he's a girl, which kind of makes sense, since he can't throw a ball and he can't climb a fence. But neither can Dad, and I know he's a man, and Mom is a woman and she drives a van. Maybe the problem is in trying to tell just what someone is by what they do well. Dudley Pippin and the Principal by Phil Resner. One day at school, the sand table tipped over. Dudley Pippin's teacher thought Dudley had done it, and she made him stay a long time after school. Dudley was very angry. On his way home, he met the principal, who had a long nose and fierce eyes. "Hello, Dudley," the principal said. "People are saying you tipped over the sand table at school today." Dudley just shook his head because he couldn't say anything. It wasn't fair. The principal said, "Didn't you do it?" Dudley shook his head. "I knew you didn't do it," the principal said. "Your teacher must have made a mistake. It wasn't fair. We'll have to do something about it first thing tomorrow." Dudley nodded. "I bet you'd like to cry," the principal said. "No," Dudley said, and began to cry. "Boo-ha, hoo-wah," he cried. "Boo-hoo, wah-hoo, boo-hoo-wah." He cried a long time. "That's fine," the principal said when Dudley was through. "I'm sorry," Dudley said. "What for?" the principal said. "You did that very well." "But only sissies cried," Dudley said. "A sissy," the principal said, "is someone who doesn't cry because he's afraid people will call him a sissy if he does." "I'm all mixed up," Dudley said. "Of course," the principal said. "Why should you be any different from everybody else? Most people spend their whole lives trying to get unmixed up." Then he took a little blue flute from out of his pocket. "Say," he said, "just listen to this nice tune I learned yesterday. It's lovely." And he began to play, and the music was sad and joyous, and it filled the quiet street, and went out over the darkling trees and the whole world. The Field by Anne Royp. Once there was a great field. At one edge of the field were trees and bushes, and on the other a thin country road that curved about, unraveled for many miles. In the field were rocks, high gray piles of stone, good for the climbing, hiding, and exploring games of children. In the middle of the field there was a tree, a single tree that had been growing for more than 100 years. It was gnarled, and its branches spread in many directions. The children from the neighboring villages would use the tree for home base in their games of tag and hide-and-go-seek. The field lay just between the kingdoms of Ora and Ghent. Both kings claimed the field, even though it was bare except for the rocks and the tree and the children who played in it. "Mine," said the king of Ora politely. "Mine," answered the king of Ghent in a louder voice. Then the people of both countries began to say ugly things about each other, and soon 2 armies gathered, one on each side of the field. The battle began. The Orians were camped by the bushes and the trees, and the Gentians were over on the other side of the road. In the tree in the middle of the field, a robin had built her nest of twigs and grass. She had woven it together, and now the nest, hidden by summer leaves, held 3 blue eggs. Carefully, the mother sat on her eggs, even though the arrows whizzed past the tree, and the shotguns made sounds of thunder, and there was the sound of screaming when soldiers were hurt or frightened. The bird stayed on her nest, although there was crying and singing and shouting as the men moved up to the foot of the tree and then retreated. One morning, when the soldiers were starting to shoot at each other again, the robin flew down to the grass and unearthed a worm. As she pulled it from the soil, the guns pounded the ground, and the soldiers moved up and down, hiding and crawling in the thick grass. And there was smoke in the air, and blood on the rocks where the children had played. As the robin was flying back to her nest, an arrow with a sharp tip flew past the crouching soldiers and pierced the throat of the bird. Her wings fluttered for a moment, and then she fell like a heavy stone. Only one soldier saw her fall. Then a shell from the king's prize cannon boomed across the field and landed not far from the tree. The earth shook and the tree trembled and the branches wavered, and the nest with the 3 small eggs fell down to the ground. The young soldier watched the nest fall. He crawled over the rocks and the twigs and found the 3 small eggs unbroken. Not even a crack was on the shells. The soldier put his shotgun down on the ground. He took off his iron-gray helmet, and turning it over, he filled it with grass and a dandelion and some clover. He carefully placed the nest in the matted grass and cradled the helmet in his arms. He sat for a while, watching the eggs in his helmet. The commanding officer came by and saw one of his soldiers sitting down. "Come on, soldier, let's go. Put your helmet on." The young man, carrying his helmet, reached for his gun and started forward. "Put your helmet on," the officer shouted. There was a pause as the soldier looked down at the eggs. "I can't, sir," he said. "There's no such thing as can't in this man's army," yelled the officer. "Put your helmet on your head." The soldier put down his gun. "I think," he said in a very quiet voice, "I think I'm going home now, sir." The commanding officer turned red in the face, but the young man, carefully holding his helmet under his arm, turned around and walked off the field past the bushes and trees. On his way home, the 3 eggs broke open and 3 small, wet birds opened their tiny beaks for food. He gathered some berries from a nearby bush and offered them gently to each bird in turn. The soldier smiled. Then the birds settled down, resting on one another, and fell asleep. Glad to Have a Friend Like You by Carol Hall. Jill told Bill that it was lots of fun to cook. Bill told Jill that she couldn't bait a real fish hook. So they made an ooey-gooey chocolate cake, sticky, licky sugar top, and they gobbled it and giggled, and they sat by the river, and they fished in the water, and they talked as the squirmy wormies wiggled, singing, "Glad to have a friend like you, fair and fun and skipping free, glad to have a friend like you, and glad to just be me." Pearl told Earl that they could do a secret code. Earl told Pearl there was free ice cream when it snowed. So they sent funny letters which contained mystery messages, and nobody knew just how they made it. And they raised up the window, and they scooped all the snow together, put milk and sugar in it, and ate it, singing, "Glad to have a friend like you. Fair and fun and skipping free, glad to have a friend like you, and glad to just be me." Pep told Greg she liked to make things out of chairs. Greg told Peg sometimes he still hugged teddy bears. So they sneaked in the living room and piled all the pillows up and made it a rocket ship to fly in. And the bears were their girls and boys, and they were the astronauts who lived on the moon, with one pet lion singing, "Glad to have a friend like you. fair and fun and skipping free, glad to have a friend like you, and glad to just be me. Zachary's Divorce by Linda Satea. On this particular Saturday morning, Zachary's toes woke up first. They wiggled and wiggled and wiggled in the warm sunlight streaming through the windows. Zachary could feel them wiggling, but he couldn't see them because his eyes were still asleep. Next, his arms and mouth woke up and all together gave a gigantic stretch and yawn. The yawn sounded something like this. Arr. Then his whole body woke up and turned over and over, quickly, and before the last turn was done, his eyes opened and Zachary was all awake. Slowly he climbed out of bed and tiptoed across the rug. He moved carefully so he wouldn't step on the blue and green flowers, only the purple ones, because purple was his favorite color. He went straight to Mommy and Daddy's room. He looked at Mommy sleeping in Mommy's and Daddy's bed. He looked at the wood sculptures he had made in school that were nailed to the wall. He looked at the leafy avocado plant that was almost to the ceiling, just the right size for pretending you were an explorer lost in the jungle. Zachary looked at the bookshelves and the easel and Mommy's paintings. He even looked in the closets and under the bed. Daddy was not there. Next, he went into the bathroom, and while he was there, he sang a little song. La la PD, la la PV, la la PG. Daddy was not in the bathroom. Zachary slid down the stairs on his stomach, bump, bump, bump. He walked back and forth from the living room to the dining room 4 times and tried to practice his whistling, but no whistle came out, only a puff of wind. Zachary looked at the bookshelves and his favorite plant that was all purple. Daddy wasn't in the living room either. Next, Zachary went into the kitchen, and there on the wall was his best invention. He turned the handle and the pulley went around and the rope pulled the refrigerator door open. Daddy had helped him build it, but it was all his own idea. Daddy and Mommy had said it was a really great idea because you could open the refrigerator door without walking all the way over to it. Zachary closed the door now. He didn't feel like any orange juice this morning. No Daddy in the kitchen. Zachary went back into the living room and sat on the big chair. He pulled Mommy's patchwork quilt over him and settled in. It was usually a very happy patchwork quilt with every color you could think of in it, but it didn't seem so happy lately. The morning is a very sad time if you have a divorce, Zachary thought. Having a divorce meant that you woke up in the morning and your daddy was not there because now Daddy lived in another house. Then Zachary thought of Amy, who was in school with him, and he remembered how Amy's divorce meant that she woke up in the morning and her daddy was there but not her mommy. He wondered how grown-ups decided which kind of divorce to give you, the mommy kind or the daddy kind. Then he tried to figure it out. If he could choose which he would rather have, the mommy kind or the daddy kind, but it gave him a headache just to think about it. Zachary stared out the window. The morning is a very sad time when you have a divorce, Zachary said out loud. I know how you feel. Sometimes the morning is very sad for me too, said Mommy, standing on the bottom step. Mommy was wearing her blue t-shirt and dungarees Zachary liked best of all, the ones with the bright purple paint on them. Mommy came and cuddled into the big chair with Zachary and pulled the patchwork quilt over her too. Zachary whispered, Mommy, tell me the story again about why I got a divorce. Mommy hugged Zachary very hard and then said, It's not your divorce, Zachary, it's Daddy's and mine. We decided we would be happier if we lived apart from each other. You mustn't think it's because of anything you did wrong, because it isn't. Daddy and I have always loved you very much and always will. And remember, you see Daddy a lot and sleep over at his house a lot too. Zachary snuggled closer to Mommy. Do you think Daddy is sometimes sad in the morning too? Zachary asked. Yes, I think he is, said Mommy. It's okay to be sad. This is a very new thing that has happened to us. But really, as time passes, we'll all get used to the divorce and we will be less and less and less sad. Let's go get some orange juice, Zachary shouted and ran into the kitchen. As he turned the pulley handle to open the refrigerator, Zachary pretended time was passing with each turn, and with each turn he told himself that soon he would feel less and less sad. Atalanta by Betty Miles. Once upon a time, not long ago, there lived a princess named Atalanta, who could run as fast as the wind. She was so bright and so clever and could build things and fix things so wonderfully that many young men wished to marry her. "What shall I do?" said Atalanta's father, who was a powerful king. "So many young men want to marry you, and I don't know who to choose." "You don't have to choose, father," Atalanta said. "I will choose. And I'm not sure that I will choose to marry anyone at all." "Of course you will," said the king. "Everybody gets married. It is what people do." "But," Atalanta told him, with a toss of her head, "I intend to go out and see the world. When I come home, perhaps I will marry, and perhaps I will not." The king did not like this at all. He was a very ordinary king. That is, he was powerful and used to having his own way. So he did not answer Atalanta, but simply told her, "I have decided how to choose the young man you will marry. I will hold a great race, and the winner, the swiftest, fleetest young man of all, will win the right to marry you." Now Atalanta was a clever girl, as well as a swift runner. She saw that she might win both the argument and the race, provided that she herself could run in the race too. "Very well," she said, "but you must let me race along with the others. If I am not the winner, I will accept the wishes of the young man who is." The king agreed. He was pleased. He would have his way, marry off his daughter, and enjoy a fine day of racing as well. So he directed his messengers to travel throughout the kingdom, announcing the race with its wonderful prize, the chance to marry the bright Atalanta. As the day of the race grew near, flags were raised in the streets of the town, and banners were hung near the grassy field where the race would be run. Baskets of ripe plums and peaches, wheels of cheese, ropes of sausage and onions, and loaves of crusty bread were gathered for the crowds. Meanwhile, Atalanta herself was preparing for the race. Each day at dawn, dressed in soft green trousers and a shirt of yellow silk, she went to the field in secret and ran across it, slowly at first, then fast and faster until she could run the course more quickly than anyone had ever run it before. As the day of the race grew nearer, young men began to crowd into the town. Each was sure he could win the prize, except for one. That was young John, who lived in the town. He saw Atalanta day by day as she brought nails and wood to make a pigeon house, or chose parts for her telescope, or laughed with her friends. Young John saw the princess only from a distance, but near enough to know how bright and clever she was. He wished very much to race with her, to win, and to earn the right to talk with her and become her friend. For surely, he said to himself, it is not right for Atalanta's father to give her away to the winner of the race. Atalanta herself must choose the person she wants to marry, or whether she wishes to marry at all. Still, if only I could win the race, I would be free to speak to her and to ask for her friendship. Each evening, after his studies of the stars and the seas, young John went to the field in secret and practiced running across it. Night after night, he ran fast as the wind across the twilight field, until he could cross it more quickly than anyone had ever crossed it before. At last, the day of the race arrived. Trumpets sounded in the early morning, and the young men gathered at the edge of the field along with Atalanta herself, the prize they sought. The king and his friends sat in soft chairs, and the townspeople stood along the course. The king rose to address them all. "Good day," he said to the crowds. "Good luck," he said to the young men. To Atalanta he said, "Goodbye. I must tell you farewell, for tomorrow you will be married." "I'm not sure of that, father," Atalanta answered. She was dressed for the race in trousers of crimson and a shirt of silk as blue as the sky, and she laughed as she looked up and down the line of young men. "None of them," she said to herself, "can win the race, for I will run fast as the wind and leave them all behind." And now a bugle sounded, a flag was dropped, and the runners were off. The crowds cheered as the young men and Atalanta began to race across the field. At first they ran as a group, but Atalanta soon pulled ahead, with 3 of the young men close after her. As they neared the halfway point, one young man put on a great burst of speed and seemed to pull ahead for an instant, but then he gasped and fell back. Atalanta shot on. Soon another young man, tense with the effort, drew near to Atalanta. He reached out as though to touch her sleeve, stumbled for an instant, and lost speed. Atalanta smiled as she ran on. "I have almost won," she thought. Then another young man came near. This was young John, running like the wind, as steadily and as swiftly as Atalanta herself. Atalanta felt his closeness, and in a sudden burst she dashed ahead. Young John might have given up at this, but he never stopped running. Nothing at all, thought he, will keep me from winning the chance to speak with Atalanta. And on he ran, swift as the wind, until he ran as her equal, side by side with her, toward the golden ribbon that marked the race's end. Atalanta raced even faster to pull ahead, but young John was a strong match for her. Smiling with the pleasure of the race, Atalanta and young John reached the finish line together, and together they broke through the golden ribbon. Trumpets blew. The crowd shouted and leaped about. The king rose. "Who is that young man?" he asked. "It is young John from the town," the people told him. "Very well, young John," said the king, as John and Atalanta stood before him, exhausted and jubilant from their efforts. "You have not won the race, but you have come closer to winning than any man here, and so I give you the prize that was promised, the right to marry my daughter." Young John smiled at Atalanta, and she smiled back. "Thank you, sir," said John to the king, "but I could not possibly marry your daughter unless she wished to marry me. I have run this race for the chance to talk with Atalanta, and, if she is willing, I am ready to claim my prize." Atalanta laughed with pleasure. "And I," she said to John, "could not possibly marry before I have seen the world, but I would like nothing better than to spend the afternoon with you." The two of them sat and talked on the grassy field as the crowds went away. They ate bread and cheese and purple plums. Atalanta told John about her telescopes and her pigeons, and John told Atalanta about his globes and his studies of geography. At the end of the day, they were friends. On the next day, John sailed off to discover new lands, and Atalanta set off to visit the great cities. By this time, each of them had wonderful adventures and seen marvelous sights. Perhaps someday they will be married, and perhaps they will not. In any case, they are friends, and it is certain that they are both living happily ever after. The Sun and the Moon by Elaine Laurent. The sun is filled with shining light. It blazes far and wide. The moon reflects the sunlight back, but it has no light inside. I think I'd rather be the sun that shines so bold and bright than be the moon that only glows with someone else's light. The end.